We've come over to my buddy Rob's house, who we filmed this garden several times now over the years. It's got a lot of beautiful pieces in it, including a lot of Camellia japonicas. And so we're going to show you some of the Camellia japonicas in this garden. Then we're going to bounce around the neighborhood and show you a couple of interesting things in the neighborhood, plus how dry it is currently. And then I'm going to wrap the video up talking about some winter protection thoughts that I have right now, because we're about to go through another band of pretty cold weather after having about a week or two of near 70-degree temperatures where everything's kind of woken up. Now, Camellia japonicas are pretty good at dealing with this. You know, you'll get open flowers on them if you get a week, where it's kind of mild outside. But right next to that, I think you can see, Steph's going to go down to this one right here. Perfect. You see this flower bud here is still tight. It'll go through those 20-degree nights without any problem, and then that will open up. So they're pretty good at, a couple of flowers will open right as the cold gets here. That's life. But you won't lose them all. They're pretty good about kind of having just a few open at the time throughout the winter months. And so Steph's going to go through here and show you some of these beautiful open flowers on these camellias. I don't know the names of all of these. Rob's got them written down, but he's not around today to help me out. So we're just going to show you some of these beautiful open flowers, and then again, we're going to bounce around the neighborhood, show you we have a lot of things here that will bloom in the wintertime. Or again, we've gone through a really abnormally dry winter at this point. Our lakes are down. I've crossed several of them in the last month, and it's amazing. We need water here. And so you might want to be thinking about some things in your winter garden right now. I'll show you that at the end. Ligustrum right now are absolutely covered in berries, and the birds are take them and eat them and drop the purple all over everywhere. But unfortunately, look at all the seed that's on this plant. There's a couple of species of these broadleaf ligustrum, lucidum and japonica, that we have here in the neighborhood. And look at the number of seed we're talking about. That stuff got close to that. I mean, I don't know what the number is up here in this tree, but if we were all guessing, I don't know, it's in the hundreds of thousands. I mean, it's a crazy number, whatever the number is, that one of these plants can produce. And, it's not an unappealing plant. I know why it literally came up here as a seed and then somehow didn't get mowed and then ended up as a small little tree, and people went, oh, it's pretty nice. And now, this is a heck of a lot of seed this thing is producing. And they just come up everywhere. We pull them out of our garden all season long. The Elagnus is also producing lots of seed. This span of plants along this spot on Dixie Trail near our house is several invasive plants together. This is a terrible place to plant Elagnus. These things can get 20 feet tall and 20 feet wide and root in as they go. So imagine how much pruning's happening on this Elagnus here. But as Steph was just showing you, they get these super sweet fruit on, or flowers on them earlier in the season, and then here's the seed. There are really 3 species of Elagnus that are invasive in the country. This is Elagnus pungens. They've got a second one over here of the 3, and then you go out west, and there's the third species. But here's more ligustrum. This is a Japanese ligustrum for sure, with that little bit of slightly smaller leaf than the one we saw on the last one. But what I really wanted to point out here was none of this other. I was pointing out these Shindo viburnum, another probably not a great choice for out here by the road, since they get 30 feet tall and 10 or 12 feet wide. But they're in here. Look how dry they are. They've been in the ground for several months now. It's rained a couple times, and they'll perk back up a little bit, but they're really suffering out here. This is not normal. Normally we could put something in the fall here and have it like this one, which is doing okay, and not this. But it seems like every single time in between rains, this is getting, going back to, full wilt. And this time I think it's lost a lot of the leaves. It's probably still not dead. This is a tough plant. It'll probably flush back out of this once we get some regular rainfall and once it gets itself rooted in. But this is super surprising for January, that something would be in that much of a wilt at this point. So just letting you know, if you live in this area around Raleigh, or there was a massive rain last week that went north of us through Virginia. Looks like it saturated Virginia really well. And here in North Carolina, it just managed to miss us in the eastern part of the state. So be on the lookout. I mean, the ground is super dry right now here. Here's an example of what an Elagnus is capable of. This one germinated here from whatever seedling, from whatever bird moved it around, whatever. And it's being shrubby here, but it's not getting enough light. So the thing's capable of basically becoming a vine. And it's vining up into this tree. It's, now this piece right here is 10 feet up into what looks like maybe a maple there next to it. It's unreal what this plant's capable of doing and how it's able to survive. It's got several different survival techniques. Somebody cut it here. At some point it got cut or bent or broken off, and it just went to town growing up through the tree. So it's trying to get up there in the light, and once it gets up there in the light, it'll be able to produce more roots, more flowers, more seed, all those kinds of things. But I just wanted to show this off. And more thorns. It's also thorny Elagnus. But it's wild to watch a shrub kind of become a vine temporarily. One thing that'll fight through almost anything is an established Nelly Stevens holly. This is a row that's on a road right here behind us that are absolutely full of berries every year because they don't get pruned. So the flowers all, flowers, they get pollinated, the berries form on them. A lot of the Nellies are in spaces that they can't allow them to get big enough just to let them keep growing. And so they, will miss a year. There's really no good time to prune something that flowers in the spring, sets the berries in the fall, and, does that in a cycle like that. You're gonna lose some fruit from that. These were planted like 2 feet apart across this bank. I guess they're in the 20-foot range at this point. They get some scale on them. I've noticed some scale insect on the back of the leaves. So they are stressed, but heck, you don't have to do anything to them. It's just a wall. You can't see this house at all behind here as you go by it. It's just an absolute wall of Nelly Stevens hollies. Probably some other hollies that are maybe a little better than this at this point. These will get super wide, so they have been pruned down here. You see, otherwise they'd be out in the street by now because they want to grow like a kind of a pyramid. But like Oakland holly, oak leaf holly, golden Oakland holly. There's some narrower cultivars now that would do this, get the berries and everything, and stay a little narrower, so it wouldn't have to be like formed to the road like this one is. This is Jasminum nudiflorum, or winter jasmine. We frequently call this plant. It blooms truly in the wintertime, typically January here in the Raleigh area. You get just a few warm days is all it takes to get this triggered and flowering. We're gonna get some 20-degree nights that'll maybe knock a few open flowers back, but these are just as tough as they can be. The coolest thing about this one is that it has grown up through the little plastic thing that goes over the guide wire for the light pole, and it's come out at the top. I tried to film this one other time and you really couldn't see it, but with the flowers on it, you can kind of see it. So it's like a bouquet of flowers up here at the top of this thing where it grew through that plastic tube all the way to the top. It's busted out the side in a couple of places now. But you can see this perfect. It's a good low hedging plant. A bit wrangly, you know, it's got to have the right spot. They've got a spot here next to this light pole where, who cares? You cut it back from the street once a year. You can just kind of level off the top if you want to, once or twice a year. And they've got it in a good spot. I mean, this is not a plant I'm going to put up on my foundation under my window where I've got to manicure it all the time, right? So if you've got a spot that you can allow to be a little bit wild, you know, this is a good choice for that. There's another spot in the neighborhood that has a really, really, really nice hedge of them. And so, you know, these are topping out at about 4.5 feet, you know, something like that. And as you're driving up to this house, you know, this is the view, you know, you're getting, you know, rather than in the house. And then when it leaves out, after it finishes flowering, you know, leaf out, has nice foliage during the summertime. Easy to propagate. You could probably root them on asphalt if you gave them a little spritz of water a few times a day. So easy to grow more of too. So if you were buying this plant and you wanted to create a small hedge of them, you could buy one and over the course of a few years, make a lot more and fill up a space. If we had gotten normal rainfall at this point, I wouldn't be thinking anything about this winter. It was the perfect going into winter scenario where we had nights in the 30 degrees, upper 30s Fahrenheit, and then just kind of went down until we had a below 15 degree Fahrenheit night here in the Raleigh garden, and everything is totally asleep, and I'm just not worried about anything except for, out of the blue, every single rain that gets forecast this winter avoids us somehow. And we have gotten dry, and I mean absolute dry. I don't think I've ever seen it like this in January. I mean, this is where we planted these bulbs a week or two ago. Look at this. I mean, I could never in a million years. I mean, usually we could make mud pies out here this time of year with whatever type of soil that we have out here. So I may end up watering some of these beds. We're supposed to get rain in like an hour or so, but it's not much. It's very little on the radar for today as well. I'm filming this on January 14th. And there's very little on the 10-day forecast. So I am concerned going forward here that we are dry. And I may need to do some watering in the ground, but long before that, I definitely want to make sure that I water my containers. So the containers that are out here, you know, they've probably gotten dry as well, almost certainly. And so we do have some things we're storing in the back in a little corner where they're all packed together for the winter time. I am going to water those before we have these 20-degree nights. One other thing is if you get a span of well below freezing nights where the days only come above freezing maybe a degree or two, so it only gets like to 34, your containers will not thaw out on those days. So if you have some marginal plants that you've been storing for the winter, this might be the one moment that you go, you know, they may need to go in the garage. They may need to go in the house for the night just to make sure that they're thawing out. Things can't stay frozen for 3-4 straight days like that. It's just not a good idea for, you know, zone 7, 8, 9 hardy things to stay frozen that long. Maybe some of the zone 3 and 4 things can probably stay well frozen through the winter time, and that's totally fine. The one other thing I would think about is if you planted any marginal plants, or like we saw with those Shindo viburnum up the street, you know, they need water. If you planted things this fall, you may need to look at them, see if they look like that, like what we saw up the street, and water them. And if they're marginal, like they're barely hardy in your area and you're about to go through a big dip and they've been under some sort of stress already, you might want to consider covering a couple of those things. So you may walk around the yard and see if there's something, you know, there's a gardenia or something like that that's barely hardy in your area. Maybe that's a candidate that you throw a sheet over for the night or 2 or 3. Doesn't hurt anything, right? Doesn't hurt the plant, doesn't hurt anything. Definitely make sure that it's going to survive through that time. So again, I don't know about the area that you guys are in, but this is a weirdly dry winter for us. Really have never seen it this dry in January before, because usually just a little bit of water will go a long way this time of year. So it is really, it's really gone a long time to just be dust out here this time of year. So thank you guys so much for following along with the channel. We're going to be doing some just basic, really basic videos coming up on moving some things around and that kind of thing, and just doing some individual videos just teaching very specific things here in the garden. So thanks for following along with it.